I have played wrestling games, more specifically WWE games, for as long as I can remember as a kid until now when I look like this. I have vague memories of like being in the arcade and playing the WrestleMania games. I have grown up with everything from the SNES to the N64 games and beyond into the titles now that we have. But WWE 2K22 is this year, and today I want to talk to you about why I'm worried. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Assemble. I'm Matt. Good to see you. Good to have you. Good to have all your smiling faces out there on the internet. Thank you very much for joining us. And today, it's all about WWE 2K and 2K22. We don't know where this game is. We don't know really what are the details. What are we looking at? And the last known updates that I have come across is just when the developers are looking at revitalizing the series and taking community feedback and taking all of that into consideration. Today I want to talk to you about why I'm worried about 2K22. Now, I have played all of the games. I have played all of the 2K series. I've played all the way back SmackDown versus Raw. And I mean, we can go back into lineage. Like so many of us, we have played all the way back for as early as we can remember it. And as I opened up with this episode, the standout memories that I have are playing things like WCW NWO World Tour, NWO Revenge, SmackDown vs. Raw, my GM mode, we'll get to that in a minute. SmackDown Know Your Role, Here Comes the Pain. All of these titles that so many of us, we just ooh over and we want so badly for WWE to correct this and developers to correct course. But I am worried about 2K22. The main reasons why I am worried, and let's start off with the big one, which is GM mode. This seems to be a no-brainer when we look back at SmackDown vs. Raw like 2007 where we had GM mode. It was something that we look back fondly on being able to go through and build up our rosters, run drafts, create these storyline moments for ourselves, being able to pick out our rosters, deal with contracts, relationships, all of this stuff. This all really mattered to us as wrestling fans. And I'm nervous for 2K22 because on one hand, the developers and they are looking at what the community want. In the last year, when they ran the report and the polls for what features people want, what do fans want, GM mode is number one. It's always number one. And I just feel like with WWE, it has always been the way of fans wanting one thing, clamoring for a mode, clamoring for GM mode, clamoring for new match types, etc., bringing back old favorites that we don't know why were removed from games and then they're brought back into games. We've been wanting GM mode for so long. I'm worried that we may not get it. I'm also worried that if we did get it, that it's not going to be exactly what we want. WWE Universe mode that we've experienced in the last couple of years has been okay. It's been a satisfactory substitution for GM mode. By no means is it what we want it to be, even for Universe mode by running your own season and career, all of that, building up your roster, all of those things. 2K20 had a lot of problems. Like a lot. I still picked it up on the first day or second day, and man, I remember that thing crashing like it was nobody's business. Outside of all of the glaring, obvious problems with that game entirely, looking at Universe mode was still a mode that still struggled. The only thing that I thought was a bright side to it was that I was able to add an additional rivalry to it, and a little bit more customization when it came to just looking at like being able to have my universe with my champs and all of that stuff. That was all fine, but at the end of the day, it's still a very stripped down mode. GM mode is what fans are clamoring for when they want to be able to customize and deal with contracts, to be able to create all these rivalries, create these moments within the game, being able to do trades, and then combine it with a steady online system and gameplay where I can go with my community online and we could maybe even trade up our whole rosters and what we have built out for like our universe, being able to do something like that. GM mode is always one that is very at the top of the list, and it has me worried that they wouldn't be able to nail exactly what fans are looking for. It seems straightforward enough, but at the same token, I worry that what we would get is being a stripped down version of that mode for what our expectations are. This game has been off for over a year. We had a year off, which I think for many of us, that's a good thing. They haven't gone out and tried to jam out another game after the flop of 2K20, and we're having to experience kind of the after effects of that. I am glad that we have a gap. It's good for games to have a breather, especially ones that fall under kind of the sports franchise annual cycle of things, like MLB and NHL, a Madden. These games always come around every single year, and we see these incremental updates. And it got to a point with WWE games that they are just getting cyclical and nothing new was coming out of these. And we were all clamoring for more and more. The next thing that I'm worried about is the lack of roster. So many stars now have moved on, retired, or have gone to other companies. And I think of bigger stars like Sting that we can't have in the game because he's in AEW. There are so many stars where their contracts have gone up that have not returned and that are in AEW. Christian, for example, has just popped up there. Big Show is over in AEW. And those talents alone may not be like big heavy hitters that, you know, we are clamoring to play as Big Show anymore, but they're huge to the whole world of WWE. Chris Jericho is another one. They have spent years, so you know that you're not going to get them in a Legends capacity, and you can't get them into any storylines. And the problem too is that not knowing where we are in the development of 2K22, there is an issue around this where they could have been building out, for example, career modes where they were doing cutscenes and bringing in past legends or anything like that. They can't utilize certain stars because they have now gone over to another brand, they've gone over to another company, and WWE is not going to allow that on their TV and definitely not in their game. They're not going to allow other stars like a Christian, a Big Show, or Chris Jericho, or Sting to be able to pop up in their video game when they are not actively with the company. This, I think, is going to be damaging. It's going to limit the roster down, and not really a fault of WWE, but it's just showing that we are not going to be able to get what we need. The other thing that I'm worried about is next gen, current gen, when it comes to WWE games. I've experienced this year after year, and always when it comes around to a new console being launched, from PS2 to PS3, Xbox to 360 to Xbox One, and so on, all of these generations, these games always fall around the month of, October to the earliest of November. And the problem is we always get these console launches, so we get a game that is rushed out, that is not ready for the next generation of consoles. And I always have it in the back of my head that I'm going to get this kind of splashy new upgraded up-res version of the game on my shiny new console, and it's very much not the case. What I'm worried about is that we now have had several months, almost a year coming up soon, of the PS5 as well as the Series X. And I worry that these games and 2K22 would not be optimized for a next-gen console, and that they wouldn't put the resource into it to make sure that that game is going to actually deliver on a next gen and giving you kind of a next level experience. What I'm excited about on the Xbox side is that we have seen so many titles come around that are getting up-res graphics, they're getting enhancements due to the Series X, but I worry that with a third-party game like this, that we're not going to be able to see it get any kind of love and attention that it really needs. And I worry that when we put it in and we turn it on for the first time on our PS5 or our Series X, that we're going to be a little bit disappointed that the graphics, that the frame rates, the glitches, that they are still going to be there, and that when they run all these comparisons and people in the community run their comparisons and screenshots and videos looking at PS4 to PS5 version, and there's minimal difference, that's what really worries me, is that we are not going to get this huge difference between console generations because this game is already in active development. And the last piece that I'll say for being worried about this game is not taking advantage of live updates, and live updates to for giving it patches, to lean on active roster changes, to have a living, breathing game like a NBA 2K21 that takes advantage of roster changes and moves and things like that. So long I've wanted to be able to have a live, living, breathing roster, and I know that they want to be able to sell us additional DLC with Superstars, Legend Packs, all of that stuff. I get it, but I would really love to see them go in and do live updates when we do have a trade, when we do have one superstar go from one brand to another. We see some updates. Maybe it is going to be as simple as they have new merch and they get an alternate attire baked in to even your most popular stars on the roster. Being able to do things like that really can help a game live a little bit longer. And if they are not going to go down the annual cycle of this thing, that's something that I think that a title like this truly needs, is to be able to have those live updates, live roster updates and changes as best they can. And at minimal, if they add new finishers, if they change things up, if they get new attires, anything like that, let's take advantage of those things for a game like this. So ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? What has you worried about WWE 2K22? What is standing out to you as the thing that's got you kind of worried that how this thing is going to turn out? Believe me, I'm going to be optimistic and hope for the best, and there are things I'm going to be excited for. While I'm worried, I'd be excited about GM mode, updated graphics, live roster updates. I'd be excited for those things, but I am worried that we may not get exactly what we want or what we need for this game as longtime fans. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Are you worried about WWE 2K22? And what features do you want to see them pull out? What game modes? What do you want to see from all the match types for this game coming out later this year? Thanks so much for watching, and as always, guys, thank you for assembling with us. See ya.